As a kid, I can remember staring out the classroom window daydreaming about trout taking my fly. Although the older I get, the tougher it is to locate that inner child, I still get distracted by the thought of stepping away from the office and heading out to the river in anticipation of discovering the perfect run that may exist around the next bend.
I think every time you fish a place you haven't fished, you want to know, you want to see more water, and you want to know what's around that, and I would say proverbial next bend, but you want to know what's around that next bend because maybe that's the best pool in the river. You know, you always want to keep fishing. If the fishing's great, you want to keep fishing because the fishing's great. If the fishing is lousy, you want to keep going because it's bound to improve. So it's inevitable. You want to keep going, you know, up or down the river to see what's around the corner because it might be better than what you've seen so far. Every trout stream I've ever fished does this to me. We started the day on the Horsefly with the Water Masters, and we're going to do a relatively short float, which I like because you can get out and spend a lot of time fishing on foot.
So yeah, Jim and I, we after pumping up the Water Masters, and you know, it was a super cold morning. So you know, rowing with the Water Masters, the hands were cold, and stepping into the water after we'd get to shore, the body was, you know, it was feeling quite cold, and it was overcast. But we found some spots, and it's funny because normally when we're fishing for trout, you know, we're looking for that structure. But in this case, the trout, they had actually left kind of their protection in order to feed.
It was amazing how invisible the rainbows are. They're, you know, good-sized fish. I eventually realized that the only way I could occasionally see a rainbow was if they were moving, you could see their shadow. But the fish, it's like they were, almost like they're transparent. They're exactly the same color as the bottom. And it was funny, you'd look out and you'd see a dozen or 20 sockeyes, and I consider myself a decent fish spotter. And I'd look out and that's all I could see. And you'd fish through there and, you know, we'd catch maybe 2 or 3 rainbows that were there with them, and who knows how many more were there that we didn't catch. It's funny how you can see the salmon but not the rainbows.
Isn't that interesting, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, when the sockeye come in, they're bright red. But the rainbows, yeah, you can't, I mean, they blend so well out there that you just can't see them. Until they move a little bit, sometimes you can see them.
Yeah, if they're moving once in a while, but it's like they're painted the same color as the bottom.
Yeah. I think one thing that's really striking me about this river is that, you know, the fishing is really good today. And the fact that we haven't seen anybody else on it, I mean, that's pretty exciting. And this river doesn't get a lot of pressure at all. And so it's one of those rivers that's, I guess you could say it's meeting my expectations. Well, it's exceeding my expectations, really. So throughout the day, like, I mean, the sockeye, they're a brilliant red, right? So it's like, oh, there's a sockeye. You can just see them out in the stream, although this year wasn't a strong salmon run. But you can actually, like, it was just so easy to see the sockeye. The funny thing was because the way the trout look, I mean, they were just so naturally camouflaged that it was so rare. I mean, there were lots of trout out there, but it was so rare to actually see a trout.
It seemed to be a matter of getting into the right spot. It was funny because we'd pull into a spot where there was some spawning salmon, and Derek would fish from the edge, and he'd like catch 4 fish in 10 minutes, and I'd be 30 yards upstream and didn't catch anything. And then we'd move on, and the next place we'd stop, maybe it would be the other way around. And I think you had to be the guy standing in the right spot. You're always anxious to get going when you start a day of fishing. And it's always, you're really reluctant to stop because you just wonder what might be around that next corner. So you want to keep going. And I've always had a hard time with that. You know, the phrase "one more cast" means about 20 minutes, maybe a little more than that. And I had to teach Derek this. And for some reason, I think he thinks I'm a bad influence on him when it comes to that sort of thing. It's time to go. He thinks you just go. What's with that?